So this is one part. Obviously we've taken the lift out already. Now we've assembly. So this is the ME 2200. As you can see here, we've started to assemble. Okay, so this whole unit here comes as one piece. These electrical connections you'll find will be underneath. What we did is these bits come separate. Now these are your wheel housings. So what we did with the wheel housings is we bolted the front two on in the crate in the trailer. And we pulled the lift out of the crate so that we could get to bolt these on, and therefore you've got wheels. So then you can tip the trailer up and start pushing, and you'll slowly but surely get it out, because this is a heavy lift. It's all made out of 1/4 inch or 3/16-inch steel. So basically, once you've got those bolted on, jack up the other end a little bit with a little hydraulic bottle jack or something and bolt these other wheels on. And you've got 4 sets. As you can see, 3 bolts and the wheel screws in. Set your wheel heights so that you've got enough clearance to move the lift, so that you can find your final position of the lift, because you won't be picking it up. Now, as you can see, they're a hydraulic lift, and the issue you're going to have is this part of the lift table here has to come up from the base to be able to put the hydraulic fluid in the hole there. So that's going to be your biggest issue, because if you haven't got like 5 people or 6 people to lift this, you're not going to be able to lift it. So what we did was we used some straps. I'll show you. So as you can see, we've already lift the table, the top of the table, but I'm going to show you how we did it. So basically we got a 3-point of the garage, which is the strongest peak of the garage. So you got a bit of a lift mechanism. And all we did is put a ratchet strap over through the top of the table and then ratchet it up like that. So lift the table. And then when that ratchet was full, I put another ratchet strap over and ratchet that one up from that height. So that ratcheted up. Then this one was loose. I retensioned this one and ratcheted that up. Once you've got the table to this height, the mechanical clip will clip in. So you can see here, it's got the lug, and the mechanical holder will hold the lug in position. What that means is you raise this part of the table to the top lug, and the top lug clicks in, and the table will stabilise there. That gives the ability to get to the hydraulic fluid, fill the hydraulic fluid. Once you've got the hydraulic fluid in, then you can obviously plug it in and use the lift to lift the table. Okay, so you can see in the instructions that the pictures are piss poor. Trying to ascertain what bolts to use in what places are the main issue. Now, you have got a page back here which will give you some basic information. So your separate parts listing is some stuff that says, assembly of the wheel clamping device, assembly of the mobile wheel assembly, main platform assembly. So you can sort of work out what bolts are used for what area. And then it's a matter of really looking at the bolts you have and going, okay, they're going to be used for that area, they're going to be used for that area, they're going to be used for that area. So it's a bit of nutting around to work out what bolts to use for what, but you can work it out. So the next thing we did was put these eyelets in. These eyelets just screw in and a nut goes underneath to attach it. The next thing we're going to look at, which is the chock. you have this bit of the chock, the upright and the chock base. The upright of the chock just has 4 bolts that attaches it to the base. And then once they're in, you might say, well, how does this stay? It's just floating around here. So that's where these bits of metal that you get with the lift come in handy. That's what they're for. So this chock assembly, how that's fit is reasonably easy. A little bit difficult to work out what nuts and bolts go there, but as I said before, you can nut through the book and it pretty well works itself out. A bit of second guessing, but it'll dry fit maybe and then Loctite, so that makes it easy. So how this works is you line this little one up to the holes that are threaded in the base, and then you line this big one up over the top of those holes that are threaded in the base. Bit of Loctite on these babies. And the same with any bolts that you're not going to remove. A bit of mid-strength Loctite holds them in position, as well as all the bolts have spring washers and washers. So before we tighten these down, we're going to put the other side on also. And so the reason I'm doing both sides at the same time is to make sure I've got enough clearance to be able to slide this in and out when these little bolts are out. Okay, so one of the issues you may encounter is, yes, you have to have clearance for this, which I'm finding if you push them all the way in when you do them up, that's giving you clearance. But the other issue you've got is the washers they supply are catching when you go to put it down. So what I had to do is get the grinder and just grind the very edge off the washers. So now it clears easily when you drop the front of the table. So that's something to watch for. Right, the other thing to remember is to set your distance here. Now, as you've got a bigger bike, you're going to want it in the outer hole, which means removing this split pin and removing the pin. The issue with that is the pin can't come past here. So if you want to do that before you tighten these inner bolts down, so you can move it out to be able to adjust the pin, then put them in. Right, solid as a rock.
Not going to go anywhere.
No, but if you need to remove the chock, it's simply a matter of loosening these middle 6 bolts with no Loctite and sliding the chock out. The outer 6 bolts are Loctite down because they don't get removed at all. Okay, it's time to add the hydraulic oil. We're going to have N46 or ISO 46. So let's fill it up. So there's dipstick down here. So looking at the tank, it probably holds about 2 litres, I reckon. Not even showing on there. Okay, tech tip from Smithy. I've already cut this one off. Why bother cutting this one off? Keep this one so you can seal it if you don't use it all. Use this one to put on this one to put more in. That way, if you don't use the whole litre, you've still got a sealed container. Okay, so you saw me put 1.5 litres in of fluid. Now, if you read this hydraulic diagram, it says it holds 2 litres. Now, one thing to check, remember when you're checking your dipstick level, the fluid goes from the tank up into the hydraulic ram cylinder. Yeah, so it's going to have some level of oil in there. So don't top this up to 2 litres and then have that up so you can get to this, and then when that comes down, this volume's going to come up. So remember that. Put 1.5 litres in, clean your dipstick, put it back in, lower it down, bring it back up, then take your dipstick out and look at your level. Your level should be about the right spot on the dipstick. Between the two areas on the dipstick is your low level when the lift is up, and your high level when the lift is down. The other thing with this control valve here, this is a one-way control valve. So this allows fluid to pass through. It's got a ball bearing and then a spring, and so it allows the fluid to push past the ball bearing, past the spring to go in when it's pumping up. But when it's pumping down, it's got an adjustment here to adjust the flow rate of the oil coming back. So that adjusts your rate of descent. So your ascent rate is only dependent on the push of the motor, but your descent rate can be adjusted by controlling the amount this valve is pushed down. So you want to set this so that when you got your bike on and you're coming down at a nice smooth rate.
This is a 15 amp plug.
When you first use it, it's got to fill the hydraulics up into the cylinder. So you might be sitting with your hand on the button for a while, and it's going to take a little while for that hydraulic fluid to push through, the air to push out. You have a few different buttons. Okay, this button is to drive the lift down via the hydraulics. This button is to drive the lift up via the hydraulics. This button is to release the hydraulics so the lift goes down under its own weight. Okay, this button is emergency stop button. This stops the lift dead. When you twist it this way, it releases so the controller can control the lift. Effectively, if you want the lift to go up, push the up button. Alright, if you come around here, this is your mechanical lock, which is the automatic actuator. On the way up, you'll notice that it just rides over the lock. Okay, now if we're there, you'll see the lock goes down. If we then push the down button, you'll see the lock lifts. Right? So it lifts and you can come down past the mechanical locks. But if you're going up and then you decide that's the level you want to sit at, then you want to push this button and that'll release the hydraulics and put your manual lock in place. If you then want to go down further, you need to lift the lift up, then push the down button, and it will allow it to bypass over. Now in that position, you can simply run back under its own pressure, under its own weight. But you can see as it's coming up to that block, you're going to have to push the down button to lift the mechanical lock. And once you pass that mechanical lock, you can just let it go down under its own weight. This is important when you're looking at your area. Now beforehand, you should have gone, okay, the lift lifts to this height, and position your lift in a position. But being that it's got wheels, you can move your lift till you've got the clearance you require. So what you need to do is look at where your handlebars, which is probably the highest part of your bike, is going to be, and measure the clearance you have to whatever it is that you're going to hit first. If I was going to work on the lowest part of the bike, which would be getting the axle to get the wheels off, then I'd be dropping this assembly here to loosen these, move these blocks out the way, and drop this section down. So that allows you to have the axles at about that height and drop down.
That'll be good for cleaning too, the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. And these just work like a mechanical lock. Loosen one side a bit so it can slide, loosen the other side a bit so it can slide.
We've got something to share. We're really proud of our product and are excited to make it available on our website. Check it out now.
Now now we're going to fit the sides. Lift up, get your hand underneath, go in, slide. Yeah, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright, swing around
Line
and
on
in. Okay,
Moved.
so have a look at that. How wide is that? Okay,
Underneath,
what are we looking at?
we got holes where they go in at each.
So you're saying here.
Yep, there.
So these long bolts must screw up into there.
Yeah.
Now I won't put any Loctites on these bolts because as you can see there's no bolt. The pressure on the side is actually coming this way, so it's coming down. So the bolt is only holding the thing in position. And all I'm going to do is nip these up so they can be undone again
Cut
at a
them
later
off the
date
other side.
if you want to take them off.
And it just holds the sides on together.
Yep. It just stops them slipping out, that's all.
They're a bit heavy to slip out, really.
Yeah, I agree, but if you've got your foot on it while you're pushing a bike on or something, you don't want it slipping.
Yeah.
The ramp just fits in the slot, and then once it's in, it comes down, and that locks in. Even Sue can do it on her own.
Maybe. There we go, done.
Now let's show you how easy it is to pop a bike on it. Simply strap. I'm going to get some shorter straps to do it in the future, but I'll use the straps that are with it for now. They'll probably be better for the back anyway. And the beauty of a big ass strong lift is I can stand here if I want to, and it's not going to tip the bike over. You know, if I want to get up on the bike and do anything, I can. If I want to get up here and sit on the bike, I could. I could sit on the bike and go up if I wanted to. You watch.
Go up.
Hello down there.
Hello up there. It's nice and quiet. It's not too loud, is it?
Not like the air compressor ones where the compressors in the background go all the time.
Yeah.
Get off the bike without having to worry about tipping the lift up. What a fabulous lift for working on any of the bikes.
We have a presence on various social media platforms. Join our growing community on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, www.identitybiker.net, so you never miss out on the latest updates, events, and content.